Hello everybody, and welcome once again to Monica at Home Interview Edition. I am Alexandra, but of course, to many of you, I'm better known as Monica Foster from www.monicaathome.com, my adult industry news blog, www.pornnewstoday.com, and my awareness website, www.christianpornstar.com. Now, today was a bit of a special treat for me because this morning I had the opportunity to interview Nick Manning. He's a lot more than just a porn star. Nick Manning is an entrepreneur. He is a fitness guru. At one point in time, he was a baseball player. He has worked on Wall Street. But above all else, Nick Manning is an extremely devout Christian. A lot of people don't know that about him, but after this interview, I hope that many people understand that just because you do choose a certain path in life, and in this case, adult entertainment is what we're focusing on, it doesn't mean that you cannot retain faith in God and Jesus Christ. Speaking to Nick Manning today provided me with not only some validation in regards to some of my innermost thoughts, but he also provided me with some closure and an alternate perspective when it comes to my past, my present, and my future. If you want to learn how to be successful in life, and not just in regards to the adult entertainment industry, but to anything, you really do need to pay attention to what Nick Manning has to say, because not only has he been able to break down the keys to life, but he simplifies it all. So, unfortunately, this isn't a Skype interview, it's only a telephone interview, but I want you all to sit back, relax, and listen. It's a bit long. It runs for about an hour. However, for all of you out there who want to be successful in life, first and foremost, keep God and Jesus Christ number one. Secondly, figure out what your real true passions are. And then lastly, practice whatever your passions are to the best of your ability. And if you do that, then maybe you'll find some of the success that Nick Manning has. Enjoy the interview. See you later. I went through your website yesterday and I looked at the preview of your documentary that you have coming out. Now, when is that supposed to come out?
Well, if you notice on there, there's two projects. There's a documentary and there's a biography.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They're two separate projects.
Oh, okay.
I would have to say that the biography will probably be done first. The biography is very, very close to being completely edited. I don't know if you know who Guy Capo is, but he's been a director and editor in the adult business for a long time, and he's a really close friend of mine. So he and I have been working on that, and I think he's probably got about another 3 hours of work, and then it'll be done. So from there, I know that Showtime has been bugging me for a few years, more than a few, 5 years to get it done. It's just, these are voluminous projects. I mean, we're talking like, on the documentary, there's 260 hours of footage.
Wow.
On the biography, there was 70 hours of footage that got chopped down to 90 minutes or so. So, it's just not that easy to even load it all and see what's there to start working with it. But, you know, on the biography at least, I took very active interest and got it done. The documentary isn't really my project, so I'm kind of at the mercy of waiting for them to finish it. And I know they're working on it, but it's, like I said, with 260 hours of footage, it's not that easy.
Yeah, that's now. When did you start shooting this? Because that's quite a bit of footage.
Both of the projects were shot probably beginning in about 2001. So when you see them, you're going to see about a decade or more of my life, my movies, my house, the people I'm with,
Wow.
Like reel-to-reel tape. I mean, I got to tell you, when I first, at least with the biography, when I first started, looking at the footage, and I had a friend of mine start at least cutting it, making clips, okay, taking all that stuff and giving me 90 minutes of the best. And then, I had a vision, probably not a very good one just because I'm really not an artist. I'm a porn star, and I'm an actor, and I'm a baseball player. I'm an athlete. But once I gave it to Guy, and I saw what he was doing with it, I mean, it was just incredible how that project transformed. And, the truth of the matter is the editor makes all the difference.
Yeah. Well, even that preview I thought was very interesting because, I've had a chance to research you a little bit. I actually read a really interesting interview that you did back in 2009 for a website, or maybe it was a magazine called Free Speech Revolution. And you seem to embody a very interesting dichotomy. On your documentary, you talk about how you feel, maybe somehow God is punishing you. And I wasn't too clear on what you meant by that, because you do seem to be very spiritual, and I would say that you have been very blessed in your life. It seems like you found success in a lot of different arenas. I know that you came from Wall Street, and then I'm assuming that, you weren't fulfilled, and that's what led you on a different path. But what would you say, well, I guess my first question is, why would you say that you feel God is somehow punishing you? Because it seems like you do reach out and that you try to help your peers a lot. I know the story of you keeping Bibles in your house, actually, that you encourage your peers to read, which I think is interesting.
Well, I've read the Bible a lot. And here's the thing. We all know who we are and what we've done in our life, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess the hope is that the Lord doesn't see you as you see yourself, But, I guess I'm conflicted because there's an obedience factor in following God. And, I've been blessed. But I believe that we're all sent here with a divine purpose, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the thing that I started off my God page with, was when the first time the Lord spoke to me. He said, well, I have so much more for you to do. Well, I'm clearer about what that is 15 years later than I was when he told me that. So I guess, how do you ever know, without some sort of divine intervention, that you're even doing what he wants you to be doing? Right? So, I guess I just take it upon myself to study, to pray, I guess to dedicate whatever I'm doing to the glory of the Lord. Now, how do you know that by being a porn star, he doesn't want to be glorified that way? You know what I'm saying? So, therein lies the conflict. How do you know that, even if you're not a porn star, if I was just I do a lot of mainstream movies and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that if I was a mainstream actor, that's what he would want you to be doing? Because if you do have this divine purpose, you don't know what it is, well, that's when you're lost. But I have to tell you that most everyone is lost.
Yeah, well, I think you actually have it together much more so than many. I would say so. Now, I have to ask you, what was your thought process when you decided to leave the traditional world and go into the adult world? What was that train of events that happened?
Well, it was, I say in my documentary, I don't know if it's in the trailer, I say, I have no idea why the Lord would have anything to do with me. But Christ says, love the Lord God with all your heart and all your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened to you. Well, if I do at any point at all, it's because I'm making an effort I have incredible strength. I can do things in the gym that a lot of people, athletically. So, I would have to tell you that sometimes I see the things that happen and I'm like, that must be the Holy Spirit because I couldn't be doing that, right? I mean, we're not nearly as strong as God. But, again, the evidence and the results speak for themselves. So how do you determine that? But when I was really, I wanted to be a baseball player. And all my life, I just assumed that that's what I would be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then from a very early age, I started having a lot of pain and problems. And it's really amazing how good I was given, I guess, the condition of my body, mostly my joints. Now, I've also torn almost every muscle.
Mm.
But really, that's what stopped me from being able to play was I just couldn't play 162 games a year. I could maybe play 80. And that just doesn't cut it when you're always on the disabled list or always hurt or not even. Just your ability is minimized when you're playing in pain. I don't care how you psych yourself up or convince yourself. There were times when I went to throw the ball and it was almost like nothing happened. I just got this searing, knifing pain in my shoulder and some days I had a great arm and other days I had a squirt gun. So what I did is I went to grad school. I thought I would do the responsible thing, get a real job, so to speak. So while I was in grad school, I was playing baseball at night and on weekends, and I played in the independent leagues, and I moved around a lot. I mean, I played in Chicago, Dallas, Phoenix, Dallas again, Long Island, and eventually in Miami. And now, I mean, even today, I'm still playing out in California, and we travel, and sometimes I disappear for months, and it's because I'm out of state playing baseball, But when I was at Wall Street, I just had this almost like a compelling feeling that this wasn't right.
Mm.
Almost a feeling that wasn't coming from me, just because I knew the bullshit that they were pulling, and the dishonesty, and the politics, and the lies, and the cheating, and the stealing. And I just didn't feel right about any of it. And I was the vice president of human resources for a major bank. So I was privy to all this stuff, and I knew what was going on. And at one point, I just couldn't stomach it anymore.
Okay.
And I left, and it was almost like I couldn't even sit there any longer. Like the Lord was like pulling me out. And he was, because, as I said, I went down to a bunch of modeling agencies who slammed the door in my face. But one had a casting for a baseball movie that very week. So if the Lord hadn't forced me out of there, I would have never been in that casting or in that movie. And that's kind of the thing that started my whole career. So, they say that some doors close and others open.
Now, was this a mainstream movie, or was this an adult movie, the baseball casting?
It wasn't. It was a mainstream movie. It was for One of the Game with Kevin Costner.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't have a big role. I mean, I was just an extra. They call it a special ability extra.
Okay.
I went down they had a casting in a park where they wanted a bunch of people to play baseball, and I was really the only one that got selected because, they needed real ball players. So they wound up using a bunch of minor league players from the Yankees and put them in different uniforms and things. So I was really the only non-professional from the Yankees organization that made it.
Wow.
So anyway, I did that, and then I did Any Given Sunday in Miami, and I was on All My Children for a while. It seemed like the Lord was working in my life. I was, things were going pretty well, so I was on the right track. And then I did a Playgirl issue.
Okay.
How it all started, because after the Playgirl issue, all the magazines, this is back in the late 90s when magazine work was really prevalent. I probably did 600 magazines in 3 years.
Wow.
They'd fly me out from Miami, and I'd shoot out here, and then I'd go back to Miami. And interestingly enough, no one knew who the hell Nick Manning was. I did 18 Disney commercials in Orlando. And I actually did, when they opened up that California Adventure Park next to Disney out here, I was the tour guide on the water ride. I
Wow.
was still doing mainstream work. I did a baseball commercial with Alex Rodriguez for Menon that was done in English and Spanish. And I was on the TV show The Fugitive. So I was kind of living a double life. I was posing in adult magazines and maybe not starring, but appearing in a lot of mainstream stuff. And I was a pretty well-known fitness model
Okay.
in Miami. So I had a lot going on. And then in about 2000, I started doing movies after the magazine business. Well, I guess with the internet, there wasn't as much need for magazines. I still shot some, but not 200 a year, you know.
Mhm.
And I started making like 300 adult movies a year, and then the cat was out of the bag, right? And none, I didn't work for Disney anymore, obviously. And
Right.
pretty much mainstream turned its back on me. But chronically, now I get hired to be Nick Manning in mainstream pictures. And I have one coming out July 10th called Cherry Bomb.
Yes, I saw the preview for that. I'm very impressed with that project. Actually, I love the theme and the whole premise of the movie. Very, very empowering for women. I can relate to that movie extremely well. So I'm excited to see it.
It's kind of like When I Spit on Your Grave. Did you ever see that movie? That's really what Cherry Bomb is, just an updated version.
I think a lot of women are going to love that movie. Definitely, men too. But that's going to be a movie a lot of women really, I think, get hyped to. It looks really cool.
I mean, I watch a lot of, the Chiller Channel and all, sci-fi, and I gotta tell you, this is not just because I was in it. Cherry Bomb is a better movie than half the shit you see on these channels. Right? It's really well done.
It looks really. Now, did you write this movie? Did you come up with the idea for it, or did you collaborate with someone on it, or how did that come about?
No, I had nothing to do with it.
Oh, okay.
In fact, the way it went down was the director, Kyle Day, and the writer, Garrett Hargrove, somehow they got in touch with the writer of my book, Maureen St. Charles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they were conversing via email or whatever, but they asked her to contact me and see if I would play this character, Ian Benedict, who is he's the strip club owner.
Mm-hmm.
And after speaking to them, I was like, yeah, and they couldn't pay me a real lot. I mean, this movie took a lot of my time. I mean, I was down in Austin, Texas for months. But I get 10 points on the back end of that movie, so it may turn out to be very lucrative.
Interesting. Now, I suppose my next question is, when you started, really becoming Nick Manning, the porn star, how did that, or did it affect your personal relationships, your familiar relationships, your romantic relationships, even how you viewed yourself, your relationship with yourself?
Well, I remember I was in my apartment in college, and I just said, Lord, this opportunity keeps presenting itself to me. I don't know what you want me to do, but I hope that I'm not making a mistake here. And that's kind of where I left it with him.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't want to go against the will of God by doing this. Now, to this day, I still don't know the answer to that question. I can tell you that I've still had really, really, really cool spiritual experiences. So, at least for up until today, I think that the Lord is cool that's because, you know, I remember it said in the New Testament somewhere that you have to take up your cross every day and follow me. And the truth of the matter is, had I just stayed on Wall Street, I would have had a very, very easy life. I mean, but the things that I've chosen to do require dedication and character. I mean, my workouts, my scenes, I mean, sometimes 8 hours when I played Batman, 27-hour shoot days. I mean, I've done some pretty intense physical things, and I'm of the opinion that, at least as it applies to me, the Lord is more impressed by the things that I do physically than the things that I could do, I guess, mentally or intellectually.
Well, I think that you are still utilizing your mental and your intellectual. I think you're still utilizing those abilities because you do seem like you're extremely disciplined. You seem like somebody who does think things through, you know, along the paths of multiple outcomes before you act. And I think that it's possible that your previous careers, you know, be it your baseball, which would have brought a lot of discipline into your life through the training, and the Wall Street, which would make you very detail-oriented. I think all that could have been preparation for, you know, what you're ultimately known for right now. I'd actually, you know, let me ask you, do you think that if you hadn't had those previous careers, you would have been able to manage your career right now and become as successful as you've been? Because, you know, it's strange, since I've begun doing some different interviews and whatnot with different people, I've had more men approach me to talk to me about their perspectives than women. But what I've found is that a lot of men seem to have walked away from the industry with a greater sense of peace, closure, and completion than the women, because I think that their perspectives seem to, I don't want to say are more developed, but are just, you know, you're coming from a different place. But, well, let me ask you, do you feel that if you hadn't had those careers, you would be as, do you think you'd be where you are at this stage? Because you seem to not just be a performer, but you have your fingers in a lot of different pots in the industry.
Well, I mean, there's something that I probably say to myself 50 times a day. And, you know, in the Old Testament, they say it hundreds of times, fear not. And that's where I try to live my life, in a position of fear not. I wish, as you say, that a lot of the things I say, do, act upon were very well thought out. I wouldn't say that's always the case. I say I go forward with an attitude of fear not. And if I got back to my baseball career, I was very angry and bitter because I trained and practiced and dedicated my entire being to that. And I remember I'd play night games, and I'd get out of there at like 11 o'clock at night, midnight, by the time I drove home from downtown Chicago and and then I'd go to the gym, right? I'd go to the 24-hour powerhouse in the World of Fitness by my house. And I remember my shoulders and my back and my knees and just things just being in total agony. And I would go in the gym like a crazy man, and I would go heavier and heavier and heavier, and I never took a day off of training. And I was basically trying to break myself. I knew my shoulder was killing me, and I was doing 350 pounds on behind the neck shoulder press. And it's like, I remember thinking to myself, if you're going to hurt, I'm going to give you something to hurt about. So I was probably one of those people that created all his own problems. And really the only way I saw any way out of that was There was no doctor that could heal me. There was no, I mean, I've had surgery on both shoulders, double hernia surgery. I've had things that have been done to me that are barbaric, but no one's ever done barbaric things to themselves like I have. And, you know, it's interesting that at the end of the day, it's character building. And maybe that's why I can fear not, because anything that could happen to me, I've already done to myself.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
They talk about in the Old Testament the great and mighty men of old. And it also says there'll be a bold and remnant people left upon this earth. And I guess, in the back of my mind, I've prepared myself for that to be me.
Wow. So...
Now, here's the question.
Mm-hmm.
Was that God's will, or was that my own? Right? Because they say he's always with you.
Well, you know, I do believe that we all have free will, but I also believe that we're all a tiny facet of what God really is. I think that every person on this planet, that's why I think we're all so different, because we're all a piece of God. I think that, you know, the good in us, the evil in us, positive, negative, you know, I have to agree with you that God is not only good, because the way I, you know, perceive the Bible, the God created the devil. So, you know, in order to create something, it has to be in you, you know, but then again, you know, who am I to say, because, you know, there's no way that we as human beings can even comprehend God.
Well, I struggle with is, you know, people talk about God is love. Well,
I think also hate.
I don't really, I believe that, but I think the disconnect is that we don't really understand what God's love means, right? Sometimes it can be ferocious. I mean, the passion of the Christ, the whole goriness of the crucifixion, Christ saying that you have to drink of my blood and eat of my flesh. I mean, these are things that people can't get their heads around, and the reason they can't get their heads around them is because we're not God.
Right.
You know, so you know, something I mean, I think the Holy Spirit reminds me often when I guess I ask, am I kind of over the top with this? I mean, my violence, and the Lord says to me, don't ever think that Jesus was a pussy.
Yeah, well, I don't think that Jesus was. You know, I wish I could have a time machine, because that's someone I would be very interested in meeting. Now, have you always been able to retain a consistent faith in God, or have you ever explored other religions or other spirituality foundations since, well, I won't even say since you've been active in porn, but even prior?
Well, no. I guess I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
But I guess I practice my faith more like a snake handling Pentecostal.
Okay.
Right. I really believe that in the twinkling of an eye, things can be changed, and Christ can heal you just through His will. And it's just it's basically a faith equation for me. The greater your faith is, the greater the Lord works in your life. And at least for me, I see that in cults, in sports, and in the gym, and in my training, and in the way that I do my porn scenes. I mean, sometimes, I've had girls say to me, Jesus, Nick, you don't know your own strength. And I'm thinking, yeah, I know exactly how strong I am. I'm just using it against you know, and yeah, it's performance art, and the Lord can throw down when he gets in that mood. And I got to tell you, as soon as that scene's over and I snap back into my reality, it's like, whew, did I just do that? You know?
Now, since you've
And I,
oh, go
and I
ahead.
remember when I was in Batman, just I guess the grueling, days that I was wearing that suit and doing all those stunts and doing the sex scene after 20 hours of dialogue and stunts in that 70-pound suit. And the other male performers around were like, Jesus, Nick, you're the only one in this business who would even do this. Right? And so I guess I'm not one to tap out.
That's good. That shows a lot of dedication. Now, since you've worked in porn, now when I was active, I actually came across a lot of people that were pretty heavy into Satanism, into cult type activity. Did you ever experience any of that? And did any of that ever influence or affect you? Or did you ever have any kind of unusual experiences from being around that?
Well, I guess maybe because, here's what I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
People act a little bit differently around me. I don't know if it's a respect thing, a fear thing, whatever it is, but for the most part, people walk around on eggshells. And so maybe that was going on, but they just weren't doing it around me because they know what my faith is.
Okay.
Right? So I didn't, if it was, I didn't know about it. Now, you asked about other kinds of religions. I'm of the belief that Christ died for our sins. He's the one who was crucified. It wasn't Muhammad. It wasn't Buddha. It wasn't Confucius. It wasn't any of these other fools. Okay? One died for us. And I think today, with this general sense of very laissez-faire towards all religions are fine, that's a bit disturbing to me. And I'll go so far as even when I see like Buddha heads around, to me that's idol worship. Now, I hope someday I get to heaven and the Lord's like, well, I appreciate your zeal, but you were wrong about this and it was all cool. I'm going to be like, wow, that's great. But the other side of the equation is, dude, you were right. That was idol worship. And all I know is I don't ever want to be on the wrong side of the Lord. Right? It's like that's not a good position to be in. And opposition to the Lord is a bad spot for anyone. There's no winning that.
I agree with you on that.
Right? So, I don't want to condemn the people who do believe those things. It's just not right for me because I'm not taking any chances.
Do you think that do you think that the path you're on right now has opened more doors for you, or do you think it's closed more doors for you, or 50-50, or do you think it doesn't even matter?
Well, I guess it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, the Lord determines what happens to me. And I'm bold among men, but humble before the Lord. And that's how I see everything. You've been in this business. A lot of people try to tell you things, and I just don't buy it. I don't go along with it. I do what I want to do and what is right for me. And the truth is, there's been plenty of times in my life where I've pissed away everything, walked away from everything, people I cared about, my own family, just because they didn't agree with things I was doing, living, how I am. And, when that happens, I have a thought, and that thought is, what the fuck would you know about it? Right? It's like I look back at my life, and I see a lot of character-building experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And when people that haven't had those experiences experiences, or maybe I see as if they had a free pass or take an easy way out in life, try to give me advice or tell me what I should be doing. I'm not hearing it. I'm waiting for what the Lord's going to tell me to do. And sometimes that's not easy, because a lot of things that God tells me are not things that I like. And I was with my parents the other day, and I love my parents, but we have very different beliefs about everything. And the problem is, my dad's a lot like me, but he has no faith. So your faith is tested most by those who have no faith.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He believes when you're dead, you're dead. That's the end of it. You're in the ground, it's over. Boom. And I just have to be able to walk away from them and love them, but do my own thing.
Cool. Interesting. Now, this is kind of a technical question, but right now, there's a lot of issues within the porn industry that are in flux. AIM has closed. You have the APHSS, which is attempting to take over the testing for the talent. Do you have any specific views or thoughts on some of the transitions that are happening right now?
You know what? The funny thing is, I don't give a shit.
I thought you were going to say that, actually. I really did. Yeah. Okay.
I don't do such things because there's never been a time when I've gone to get my test and been the slightest bit concerned when there were HIV scares or when there were other scares, because I know that my destiny is in the Lord's hands, and I fear not. So, because everyone else is shitting their pants all around me, and the devil's in the details, and we got to take this over, we got to have this. You know what I know about procedures and policies? It's just a distraction. I mean, I say this all the time about people. Their job really isn't to do their job. Their job is to not get fired. Right? And the thing I know about myself is no matter what I'm doing, success or failure, I'm going to do things to the best of my ability. Okay? And I'm not going to worry about the consequences. And if I get fired or somebody doesn't like it, like I told my father the other day, the truth is the truth. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. Because I find when I speak the truth to people, that's when they get the most upset with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, they talk about in the Bible being flatterers of men and how it's like everyone's just going around bullshitting each other. But I'm not bullshitting anybody. When I tell you something, I'm telling you what I believe and how I feel at that moment, and what I believe in my heart is the best thing to do. And if somebody doesn't agree with that, fine. But it's funny how it really upsets people when I tell the truth.
People don't want to hear the truth a lot of times.
Because I want to hear the truth. Right? It's like if you had something that you knew for sure that you wanted to say to me that you thought was going to upset me and you didn't tell me, that would be worse for me than if you just said, Nick, here it is. And I don't want to be in the dark on things. And I'm not worried about my feelings. I think one of the quotes I have on my website is, we all feel a lot better if we just ignore the feelings.
I think you live very in the present. That's very unusual. That's good. That's a good thing.
And I guess the fear would be for most people, well, geez, Nick, everyone's going to turn against you and hate, but whatever. I mean, if everyone on this earth was up against me, but the Lord was for me, I'm sure it would be just fine.
Well, I think you have a very, actually very down-to-earth outlook, which is ironic considering that you're working in such a very non-down-to-earth industry. It's funny.
I mean, I try to bring the values that I've had in everything I do. When I come to work, I get there on time. I know my lines. And once they say action, I don't care what's going on around me, whether the girl wants to cooperate, whether she doesn't, whether she's into it that day, whether she's not. The fact of the matter is, I have a job to do, and this is my career, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, regardless. It's kind of like a baseball game. The pitcher's not trying to let me hit the ball, but I have to do that anyway. And there's not much that I can do about it. I know I personally stand when I play baseball. I've always stood right on top of the plate. And pitchers brush me back all the time. They'd throw balls at my head, and it would shake some people up. But I stepped right back into where I was standing, and I'm fearless in the ball. Because you know what I know the alternative is? I know that I can't hit unless I stand there. So if you can even move me off the plate 2 inches, I'm out. So I have to stand there, pal. You can throw it at my head all you want. I'm not moving.
Okay.
And that's how I approach everything in life.
Huh.
If you know that you have to do something, what are you going to do? I'd like to give me a better alternative. I'd like to know, because if there was something easier, I'd like to please try it, but I can't find anything.
What would you say to a young man who's thinking about coming into porn? What would you say to them?
Here's what I would tell almost anybody. I know that I'm wired differently, okay? I know that for sure. I mean, I've been a leader and a stud among men all my life. My teammates, great and strong athletes with huge ability, followed me. So, if you're not wired that way, this can be a very tough place to be. Okay? And I tell a lot of people, they're like, oh, Nick, I want to be a big porn star like you. And I'm like, well, then I would suggest that you go back 20 years and start lifting weights every day, and you too could be Nick Manning. But at the point where you are right now in your life, I think your career lies at Home Depot.
I think that you're very interesting. You're more than a porn star. You know, I like to call some people life stars, because this is almost a second or a third life for you from what I've been able to research of you. You'd already lived quite a bit before you came into porn. And what do you think, where do you think you're going? Where do you see yourself at like 10, 5, or do you even think that far in advance, 5 to 10 years from now? What would you like to be doing?
Wow. That's a really good question. I guess the real answer to that question is I'd like to be doing what the Lord wants me to be doing. Right? I think the best prayer you can pray is, your will be done. Because what does that mean? Well, that means that I'm acknowledging that the Lord knows what's best for me better than I do. Okay? So, if you ask me what I want to be doing, I guess I want to be playing baseball, and I want to be making movies, and I want to pretty much be doing what I'm doing. Not really looking to retire and let the grass grow under my feet. I mean, what's the point of working out all the time if you don't use it for anything?
Right.
So, I can tell you, I'm not that interested in the business aspects of anything. I mean, I tell everybody who gets into business with me, whether it be the documentarian or the biographer or Naomi at the website, or, I mean, I got this country song out now, these guys in the band. It's like, look, man, you need to look at me like you would a racehorse that was going into the Kentucky Derby. And what do I mean by that? Well, this is what I mean by that. You wouldn't ask the racehorse to be your own trainer, and you wouldn't ask the racehorse to feed himself, and you wouldn't ask the racehorse to ride himself. you would let him go out every day and run and be a great athlete. Well, I'll say the same thing about my career. All these other people, whether it be book writers or producers or whoever they are, the more time you're taking away from me being a great athlete, the worse you're making Nick Manning. So, I guess I would have to say, if you want me to sit around and do paperwork and put deals together and do the accounting, it's like, what do I know? Well, within 6 months, we might as well quit anyway because Nick Manning's going to suck.
You're a doer. You're a
But
doer.
isn't that a matter of you can't serve two masters? I mean, it's like, could I sit there and struggle through and build my own website and I don't need fucking Naomi? Or could I sit there and struggle through and edit my biography and I wouldn't need Guy Capo? Or, I mean, we could talk about anything. I don't even need you. I could have written my own fucking article and sent it off to a million press agents. But, one, I'm not the slightest bit interested in doing that. Two, here's what I know. Even if I could muddle through and do a decent job, I like leaving things to the experts. You don't know what you don't know, okay? And the only places I feel real comfortable with my ability, where I say, man, I'm a professional, are on a baseball field and in front of a camera, whether it be in a mainstream movie just acting or whether it be in a porn movie performing. And I think that's where I kept it real for myself. I got up and I trained like a superhero every day, and I'm going to still do that no matter what I'm doing. I remember even when I was on Wall Street, I'd work all day, I'd play baseball all night, and I'd go to the gym for 2.5 hours. And I was basically functioning on no sleep. So Wall Street had to go.
Wow, you know,
And I'll tell you, that was not a decision based on financials. That was a decision based on personal pride, where it's like, dude, I'm too prolific to be sitting here behind a desk doing shit I don't even like. I mean, it's like, I don't care how much money I can make. I mean, back in the day, they're paying me $300 to be on romance novel covers. I was making $10,000 a week on Wall Street. They were paying me $500 a game to play baseball. Not even a week. $600. I think the most I ever made was $1,200 a week. And I would rather do that than make $10,000 a week.
you know what you want. That what is what I would say is your secret of success. I noticed on your site you talk about sharing your secrets of fitness success, or whatever kind of success. But you've figured out what you're good at, what you like to do, and you do it. And I think a lot more people would be much more happier in life if they thought along the same lines that you think. I wish I did. I really, maybe that'll change because you just kind of woke me up.
It's what does Christ say? The path of the righteous man is, I think, surrounded on all sides by brambles, and he says, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and come follow me." And it's not going to be easy. And I guess, knowing what I know about what I do and how I go about it, I have no other choice but to live for God. Because without God, I need help, right? I mean, these things that I'm attempting to do are, there were years where I shot 300 movies a year, okay? I remember being on set for 15, 16 hours, getting out at midnight, and going to the Gold's Gym in Hollywood and training for another 3 hours. And that's just how I live. And most people think that's crazy. And there are times when I doubt any great, I mean, how did they live their life? They probably focused on the things that they were good at.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. I mean, I really don't. I've not found the key to be a jack of all trades. Now, I can do a lot, like even this country song. Like, everyone's like, wow, Nick, you're a really good country singer. That's a great, you wrote that song. Yeah, I wrote that song. And you know what? The truth of the matter between you and me is, I get very little satisfaction out of it. Because in my mind, I view that as easy. And I also view it as something that I really don't care about that much. So, yeah, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I'll take it as far as it'll go. But really what I'm thinking about is my next baseball game, or my next porn scene, or the things that I'm passionate about. Now, yeah, I might be a good country singer, but I'm not passionate about going on tour.
Well, I think that you're going to end up opening a gateway, in regards to, what I found is that there is a certain demographic of people who work in adult who don't feel comfortable sharing their spiritual beliefs, or they feel like there's no place for spirituality within, while working as a performer. And, of all things, not, many believe that they should not be open about their spiritual beliefs, especially if they believe in God or Jesus. But I think it's really nice that you are opening up and sharing that now. A lot of people have been under the impression that you are retired, but as you said, you're not. And I think...
Yeah, I guess I wonder where they get that idea. I mean, I was doing a muscle and fitness, a fitness shoot, and it took me 6 months to train for that. And I was doing Cherry Bomb, which isn't that really what everybody in adult wants to do, is they want to do mainstream movies?
Yes.
So when I go off to do a mainstream movie and it turns out to be a great project, people go, oh, he retired. Dude, I was just doing something that everybody says they want to do in this business. And it's funny when they say, oh, the crossover star of the year. It's like, I did mainstream before I did porn, so you're going to call me the crossover star of the year? Like, I crossed over in 1997.
It's labels.
I don't get it. Everybody wants to pigeonhole everything. It's their small thinkers, okay? And if you're a small thinker, how can you have faith in God, right? Because God is unseen. He's all. I mean, the things, and I'll go on into them more often. I know if you saw the God page, I talked about it.
Yeah, I did, yes.
Experiences. Well, that's only the first one. The other ones are detailed in the documentary and the biography, but when I get into those, people can be like, oh, Nick's lost his mind. But the truth of the matter is, these things really happened.
I believe you.
Sometimes I really hadn't. Because I can tell you, a few of them really shook me up.
No, I believe I've had spiritual experiences, and I've talked about them, and people, I tend to have a reputation for being crazy. I'm actually surprised that you were willing to let me do this interview with you. But no, I think that you are doing, at least from my perspective, you are doing what God wants you to do, because this is something that many of your peers need to hear. This is something that the world needs to hear. You are a lot deeper and a lot more multifaceted than I think many realize. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you. This has been very interesting, and you actually gave me some closure that I needed.
I know I said in the welcome page on my website, I said, when it comes to me, a lot of people say a lot of things, and most of them are fables and tall tales. It's like, I don't know where they get this, but it's like, who would have said I retired? I was on Showtime in Beach Heat, 13 episodes every Thursday night. I mean, nobody was noticing this. It's like, where did they think I was? It's like I was on TV every week.
I think a part of what it is that, you know, in the, I don't know if you want to call it the porn press or what, but you have a lot of the performers tend to send out a lot of press releases, and I haven't really seen many press releases coming out from you. So that's probably why people kind of might have thought that you retired, because even though you were out there, nobody sent anything out. That's probably why.
Never had a publicist. I've never felt obligated to talk about myself. I mean, I made a decision when I started this business. I saw that there were two ways to be not only a porn star, but any sort of entertainer. You could either take the path that I took, which was, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to throw down every day, and my hope is, I guess my faith is, that someone's going to notice how good I am at this. Okay? All talk, no action gets you nowhere. And you know what happened? It did. After I made about 500 movies, Howard Stern started being like, holy shit. And then other press caught on. And next thing I know, people were saying I was an American hero. Right? These are fans saying this, not me. Now, the other option I could have been was, I could have been a paper porn star. And what do I mean by that? Well, I could have done 2 movies, and I could have hired a publicist, and I could have talked a bunch of shit, and just been all hype. But that's not how I operate. And when I was playing baseball in high school, I remember we lost the game, and our pitcher was making some excuses about the umpire. And our coach said to him, this is St. Lawrence, and we don't make excuses around here. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head. And I was like, yeah, what the fuck do excuses ever get anybody? It's like you can either do this or you can't. And all the talking about it in the world is nonsense. And that's where I think today, things like Twitter and MySpace and Facebook, this shit is all dangerous. Because now, any clown can talk a bunch of shit about themselves and fool everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't looking to fool everyone. I was looking to be able to look myself in the mirror every morning and be like, dude, you're a stud. And that's a better feeling than everyone else saying I'm great.
You're one of the few left who have that mentality, which is a good mentality, but you're one of the very few left, unless there's some sort of a change. Definitely, yeah.
I don't know what will be the outcome, but at least I'll feel comfortable about my life.
Good.
Right? And to your point, I'm sure I'm leaving dollars on the table as we're sitting here talking. And again, I don't give a shit. Now, what do I know? Well, at 2 o'clock, I have to go to my attorney's office, who has come up with 1,000 drop and loads and Nick Manning trademark infringements. So, what does that tell me? Well, it tells me that I'm significant. Because if 1,000 people are making money off of the things that I have done, well, then I obviously had impact.
Yes, you did. Or you, I won't say did, but you do have impact.
So,
wow.
I don't know what to do about that. I mean, I guess I really don't want to sue everybody. I guess I just became their partner.
Well, you have. You have. Actually, well, let me go ahead and end this interview with one more question. How did you come up with the dropping loads? You know, how did you make that your saying? What went through your mind when you decided you wanted to start saying that all the time?
You know what's ridiculous? The fact that that's what I'm known for. Because, I mean, I didn't even start doing that until, like I said, maybe 300 movies in. And when I did it, it was just because we were fooling around and I was trying to make the crew laugh. and
okay.
They did. So next time I went to work, I did it again and it made the crew laugh. And, you know, those guys are jaded. They don't even want to watch sex scenes. But I noticed when I was doing a sex scene, it was standing room only around the monitor to see what the hell I was going to do and say next. my friends. And next thing I know, they started leaving it in the movies. And then I was on contract at Wildlife. And not only did they leave it in the movies, they started encouraging this nasty Nick persona and character that, so many people get into. And I find it odd only because I see myself as so versatile. I've done love scenes, and I've been the leading man in a shitload of movies, best actor noms every year, sometimes several at a time. And there's people that don't even know my name, but they know Dropping Loads. And that just shows you the mentality of the world.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. That's interesting.
So, I guess, it's great, but I just wish people would see the rest of it, There's more to it than just Dropping Loads.
I think in time they will. I think that your web designer did a really good job as far as showing your versatility and letting people see more of who you are. And, even though you mentioned that, a lot of people do talk the talk more so than walking the walk, especially nowadays, you do have to have a bit of a balance. And I think that your website and a lot of the projects that you're doing right now are going to create more of a balance for you, when it comes to the public's perception of who you are. So I think you're going to have an interesting next 5 years, really. I usually have a good sense of that. So, yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, sometimes when I hear things from people of God, I know that they're true. Right? And if you think that, then that's probably divine information that you're supposed to give to me.
Well, I hope so, but if not, it's just my opinion. That's it.
We'll see. I mean, do you shoot at all anymore?
I'm not sure really where I'm at right now. I had some very weird.
Work with the Load series.
I'm not sure where I'm at right now. I had some interesting experiences that left me very jaded and very bitter. And I'm just now over some of those things. And I left LA. I really needed to find myself and reset, which is why I moved out here to the Vegas area. And I'm somebody who's always looking for answers, probably more so than I should, which is why, I like doing these interviews and, talking to different people and trying to get perspectives. And I figured talking to you would give me some closure, but you really, I can't wait to re-listen to this later because you've said some key things that I never would have thought, and I needed to hear it today. And you said some things that were actually very difficult for me to hear, but it's what I needed to hear. And I think, not just for myself, I mean, I am kind of selfish, more so than I like to admit. And I do these interviews and I try to, progress my little, projects for myself. But, I'm finding that it's also helping some other people, which is nice. But what I like about you is that you are so, you've been so honest and you also are so focused. And my problem in life is that I am a jack of all trades. I'm somebody who's good at a lot of things, and I've never been able to focus on exactly what I should focus on, mainly because I've never really had I've never really been able to fine-tune my purpose. I'm just now doing it, and I'm also just now able to be honest with myself about exactly what kind of person I am and what I really want. I was raised.
That's the key to it. You just said it right there.
Yeah. I was raised in a house. Go ahead.
If you're not honest with yourself, you're never going to feel right.
I haven't been honest with myself. I was raised in a household to where the type of person I really am was always suppressed greatly. and I carried that with me. I moved out at a very young age, but still I always carried that with me. I've always been so concerned with what other people have thought, and I've always been my own worst enemy. You were talking about bringing your own problems and even developing your own problems and breaking yourself. That's what I've been doing for the past few years, and I've been a fool. And I'm just now figuring that out at 33 years old. So you just have no idea how much closure and realization you gave me in this particular interview. So thank you.
Well, good, and that was really not only the reason I did the God page, but the reason I did the website and the reason there's a fitness page, and it's because you don't know how. I mean, let me go back. When I was in high school, I mean, all I want to do is fuck chicks and play sports, right? And lift weights, right? That's all I did. That's all I did. And if you'd asked me who I liked, like in terms of like a celebrity, I would have told you. I liked the Road Warriors, the Animal and the Hawk. They were the Legion of Doom. They were pro wrestlers, and these guys were just larger than life. If pro wrestling was real, nobody would have even stepped into the ring with them. And interestingly enough, they were from Chicago, which where I was from. And I used to think, well, now that I'm who I am, I'm assuming that the same people who would have liked the Road Warriors liked me. And I have the saying, there's two assholes in every high school and every college in the world who think I'm cool. Right? And those people are the ones that contact me. And they want to know about my training. And they write to me and they tell me that when they're fucking girls, they're like a hockey team sends me emails saying when they're fucking their puck bunnies that they all get into yelling my shit out to the girls while they're fucking them. And there's another guy who writes to me and he says, there was a 5-year period where every day I at least once quoted Nick Manning. And it's like, so I know there's this market out there, okay? And then I also know that there's a female market who is attracted to me for different reasons. You know, probably not for that, but because they find me appealing sexually. And it's like, I'm trying to get across to these people because their questions are, how did you do this? And why are you like that? And I just want to make them understand that if you really want to achieve something and you think that this stuff is cool, like I thought the Road Warriors were cool, well, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot. Everything. Your time, pain, exertion, exhaustion, discipline. I eat the same things I've been eating the same shit every day for 30 years. I mean, nobody wants to do that. But if you don't want to do that, then you don't really want to be great. I mean, I guess the person that I relate most to of anyone that's walking on this earth is Herschel Walker. And Herschel Walker's 50 years old, and he's one of the greatest athletes that's ever been around. Even today, he does things that 20-year-olds can't do. And, well, what did he do? 2,000 push-ups every day, 500 dips. He didn't even lift weights. He did it all on the floor. And I saw his documentary, and one of the things he says, which reminds me so much of myself, is it's a real lonely place getting on that floor every day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the explanation. Some people want to do that, and some don't. And there's a lot of times when I wish I didn't want to do that, but I'm driven to it, almost insanely driven to it. And that's where I wonder, is that God's will, or is that mine?
Maybe a combination of both.
God's will is, Jesus, Nick, I've given you all these blessings, and I just want you to enjoy them. But my hell is that I can't. Like I said, I got a hit country record right now, and I don't give a shit. I mean, I'm going back in the studio on Wednesday to record the second song. And I'll do a great job, and it'll be fine, and people are going to love it. And I don't give a shit. And that's the lonely place to be.
Well, I'm going to end the interview with that because we went a little over an hour. But,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but this was awesome. This was not what I expected. You exceeded my